Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Intro to Smart Learning Suite Online, or as we like to call it, SLSO. Before we get started today, I wanted to go over a little bit of housekeeping. We do have a chat going on, and we have some moderators. You'll see those moderators have wrenches by their names, so they're going to be able to answer some of the questions you may have about today's content. Please note this session is being recorded, and we will post it on our YouTube channel as well as the EdTech Training website. Hope you like this video. If you do, click the like button. And as always, please subscribe to our channel down below. If you subscribe, you can get some notifications by clicking the bell of when we do go live. As I said before, everything will be on the Educational Technology Training Team's website. You can find that at edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org. On this website, on the left-hand side, you'll see live stream resources. You can see all of the recordings that we've done over the past couple of months with you. You'll see the recording from today. Later on this week, we'll post that. And you'll have all of that information there for you to return to and look at again at your leisure. So right now, I'm going to bring up on the screen our special guests today, Hillary and Ryan. They are our training specialists. They're dedicated to our schools and to our county here in Palm Beach. And they're going to be offering the session for you today. They also have another session going on this Thursday that's a little bit more advanced. So we hope that you can join us Thursday as well. Hillary, Ryan, I'm going to let you guys take it away. Have a great show.
Thanks, Rebecca.
All right. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the introduction to the Smart Learning Suite online course. My name is Ryan Roach, and I'm a smart trainer here in Palm Beach. I have the pleasure of having my colleague, Hillary Matevia, with us today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hillary Matevia. I'm also a smart training specialist.
All right. So our information is here in this slide. You can email us. My email address is ryanroach@smarttech.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at smartryan33. And you can also email Hillary Matevia at smarttech.com and follow her on Twitter at Hillary Matevia. Just to let you know, we also have two additional trainers, Laura Von Helma and Akia Shepard, in the chat to answer any questions that you may have during our webinar. And then also they'll be dropping resources in the chat for you as well throughout the webinar. So our objective today is to leverage the power of the Smart Learning Suite Online to develop engaging activities and lessons. Our agenda today is to introduce you to the Smart Learning Suite Online to enhance a pre-created lesson using Smart Learning Suite Online, and we'll be implementing and putting some tools into that lesson. So we'll be using some smart activities, a YouTube video, handouts in response. And then we will show you we'll explore some lesson delivery options with your Smart Learning Suite Online lessons. The Smart Learning Suite Online is an engaging lesson delivery tool for enhancing and extended learning. So get students involved, create from scratch things that you already have, or leverage existing content. So use what you already have. Also, you can, for games, you can create games to make the virtual learning a little bit more fun. And again, as I mentioned, you have multiple delivery options, either at your Smart Panel, over Google Meet, and also Google Classroom. And the best thing about the Smart Learning Suite Online is it does have Google integration. So this is built into your Palm Beach email address. So it's easily able to create your lessons from there. Also, you're able to put in what you create into the Google Classroom. You can also share it out with your colleagues. So now I'm actually going to switch over, and I'm going to hand it over to Hillary so she can go through the creation portion and go a little bit more in depth about the Google integration.
Thanks, Ryan. All right, guys. So like Ryan was mentioning, we are going to start here in our Google Drive. So how this webinar is going to work is I'm going to give you a tutorial for the first part of the webinar, and then the second part's a little bit more hands-on. So sit back and relax, learn all you can right now, and then we'll get a chance to see both the student side and the teacher side. And like Ryan mentioned, Akia and Laura are in the chat. So if you have any questions come up while I'm going through, be sure to put it in there and we'll get back to you. So we're going to start here in Google Drive. And like Ryan mentioned, we want to be in our Palm Beach Schools account. I know that because I've got the school district logo over here in the right-hand corner. In order to access Smart Learning Suite Online, you're going to use the New button scroll to more, and then click Smart Learning Suite. I'll show you that one more time. I'm just in Google Drive. I'm going to go to New, More, Smart Learning Suite. And when you click that, it brings you to the Smart Learning Suite dashboard. This is where we can start our lesson. We've got a lot of options that will come here. I'm having some internet issues, so it's going to be just a second. All right, here we go. So here is our Smart Learning Suite dashboard. And this is the way that we can start our lessons. All of these options that you have here, we will see these again. These are different smart elements, smart activities that you can add to your lessons in order to increase engagement. Where I'm going to start today is by importing a resource. When you click the drop-down arrow, you'll see that you have two options to import your resources. You can choose from Google Drive or from your device. So that's whatever device that you're using at this time. From each of these, you can pull in PowerPoints, PDFs, Smart Notebook files, and also Google files. I'm going to choose to pull from my Google Drive and then select the file that I'd like to turn into a lesson. So what's happening now is it's transferring a file from Google into a Smart Learning Suite online file so that I can add different elements to my games or to my lesson here. All right, so here's my equal parts lesson. This is a lesson that I typically teach face-to-face. And what I want to do is kind of zhuzh it up and give it some virtual elements so that my students can interact with this in a new way. So this is my title slide. And typically what I would do is I would show this page to my students and just ask them to silently take a look. What do you notice about these different shapes? And my follow-up question would be to maybe after 30 seconds or a minute, I would have them turn and talk with a partner or stop and jot in their notebook. But I want to do this digitally instead. So down here at the bottom of my screen, I've got a blue and white plus button where I can add elements. If I click that, here's that dashboard that I showed you earlier. It's got some of the same elements that we saw how you can start a lesson, but now I'm going to integrate it into my lesson. So I wanted to make like a stop and jot or a turn and talk opportunity for my students digitally. So I'm going to use a shout it out. What a shout it out is a whole class bulletin board. Students can share their ideas. It'll pop up on the screen for us to see. And I really like this for the beginning of the year because it gives every student a voice in what we're doing. So I'm going to click select activity and I get to set it up. Shout it out is so easy to set it up. It's really just you click shout it out and you choose your options. It's so fast. You have two options as far as the bulletins boards go. We saw in the preview that one just had students' contributions randomly popping up. That's this randomized one here. You can also categorize this. This is great for like a KWL chart, likes and dislikes, positives, negatives, all kinds of different categories. I'm going to keep it with randomized since my students are just putting what they noticed. They can contribute text or images. I'm going to keep this on text. And you can change how many times the students respond. So if you only want them to respond one time, you can do that. This goes up really high. You can go to whatever number you need. I'm going to keep it at 3. Finally, one of my favorite features is this down here. It's the student names. I can choose to show my students' names or hide the student names and give them some student anonymity. But as the teacher, I still have student accountability. I mentioned earlier that we're going to go through and look at the teacher and student side. So I'll show you this again whenever we get there. Finally, press finish. And here's my shout it out. It went and embedded directly after the introduction slide that I was using. One tip that I like to give my teachers is that to change the title here, I like to put the question just one more time. That way my students can see it once again before we get started. All right, so I've got my lesson hook. Now I'm moving into the teach portion of my lesson. This is just the same slide as the beginning, slide 2. And what's neat about these is these objects are movable. And so if I were on campus, I could interact with this a couple of different ways. If I was presenting this on my smart panel, I could have students come up and move these into different ways. And we can interact with this a few different ways that makes it really engaging. What I would like to do here is use this A button at the top to add categories. Just going to click the A, click where I'd like the text box. And then I can highlight the font here to change it. Make it a little bigger so we can see, and change the color. So I'm just making 2 categories, equal shapes and unequal shapes. And I'm going to leave those where they are so that whenever I get to the teach portion of my lesson, I can move these all around. Let's check them out. I want to mix them up a little bit better now. Okay, here we go. I'm ready to move on. All right, so this is, I've got a hook. I've got the teach portion. Now I want to add some implementation where my students can take this activity that we just did together as a class, the we do, and do it on their own. So using that same blue and white plus button, I access the Smart Learning Suite online dashboard, and I'm going to choose to add a game-based activity. Now, there's tons of game-based activities and unlimited ways to use them. Really, your imagination is the limit here. I'm just going to highlight a couple. One that I really love is this one here called Flip Out. I'll give you a preview using that magnifying glass. Flip Out really just looks like it's flashcards, but I've seen this used as a choice board, incentive charts. It supports images and text, so you can use this a lot of different ways. Another game that I really like is the Monster Quiz. The Monster Quiz is a competitive team-based game where students answer questions on their own, but they work on a team. This is so fun. It's popular in adult learning, like with staff development, but it's also really popular with the kids, no matter the age. We play these as a team all the time whenever we're introducing new concepts, and it's really fun. The last one I'm going to choose today is the Super Sort. The reason I'm choosing Super Sort is because it's kind of a low-risk way for students to practice. As you can see, as the students get them correct, they disappear. And if they get them incorrect, they bounce back. So it has some built-in repeated review. So I'm going to select this activity, and it will take me to the Add Content page. Here I can add in my titles. And in the text field, it supports text or images. So you can type in text, right? Oops, there's a typo. Type in text here or add in images. I'm just going to click the image icon. And you can see these are saved on my desktop. So before you get started, if you want to add images, I would make sure to download those images that you want to use, or the pictures, and then you just select and click open. It doesn't take very long. You just click and add each one. Ryan, how else have you used Super Sort?
As a teacher, I used the Super Sort for daily living skills and also life skills. I've seen some really cool ones around maybe comparing an urban community to a suburban community, things that you would see in both. So it definitely has multi-purpose, maybe nouns, verbs as well.
Yeah, one of the ways that I like to use this is with like synonyms and antonyms or opposites. We've used it that way a few times to increase vocabulary. There's all kinds of different ways. I especially like to use the visuals for our English language learners and for the younger kiddos who aren't quite reading on their own yet. Okay, so that didn't take me very long to add those. As soon as it's done uploading, I'll click next. Here you can choose a theme. I love this little space one. It's got these cute aliens, and when they get it all right, the ships blast off. I'll press finish.
Good choice.
Thanks. And here it is. And just like we did before, I do like to change it here, put the shapes Super Sort so my students have a better idea. I'll show you a quick preview of what the game looks like. Now, when we go back to the tutorial side, I will give you a chance to play this, but I just wanted to show you here. I put in equal, unequal. If I get one incorrect, it bounces back. So like I mentioned before, this is low risk. Repeated review is built in. It's not for a grade necessarily. So the kids really get to practice whatever skill that we just introduced. All right, so the next thing I'd like to add is a YouTube video to kind of extend the learning. I've seen students or teachers add YouTube videos at the beginning of a lesson to hook the learners or at the end to wrap it all up. I like to use it in the middle after I've taught because we know that sometimes hearing things a different way, even though it's the same thing, helps students learn. So we can add a YouTube video by clicking the blue and white plus button and then the YouTube icon. Now, if you use this YouTube here, you can copy and paste the link if you've looked it up before, you know what you're looking for, or you can just type it in. I'll press search, and using the YouTube icon, you can preview it before you embed it into your lesson. I know this is the one I want to see, but I'll give you guys a little preview. So you can check it out here. I like this video because it features pizza and pie, which are two of my favorite foods. So here's the preview. We're done. Select it. Got the blue square around, so that's how I know I've selected the right one. And I'll click Add. Now again, Smart Learning Suite Online does a great job of adding in a new slide. So I didn't have to, it didn't cover up any of my information. I don't have to rearrange. However, if I did want to rearrange, I just select with the blue square again, and I can drag and drop these into a new order. All right, so we're nearing the end of my lesson. I want my students to have some implementation. Typically, I may show these shapes on my smartboard at school, or on the projector, or even drawing them on my whiteboard and giving my students an opportunity to draw them in their notebook and take their turn dividing each shape into equal parts. Now, right now, I'm not able to do that. So what I want to do is convert this to a digital handout. There's a really great way we can do this. We're going to skip the blue and white plus button, but stay down here at the bottom of the screen. Do you see this little magic wand that says convert to activity? Well, right before it says this page is view only on devices, on student devices. I want to change that. I don't want this to be view only on student devices. So click the magic wand and then choose to make this page an individual handout activity. What this does is it makes it kind of like a digital workspace for students where they can interact with the content. They've got options to utilize pins, text, and images to make this page their own. Once again, I'll get to show you this where you can interact with this from the student end in just a few minutes. But in order to convert it, I just click the button and voila, there it is. It's a handout. I'm going to change the name to, let me highlight it. Divide the shapes into equal parts. And then it's finished. All right, so I've reached the end of my lesson. I've had my students got to practice, they got to extend their learning, now they've got to implement it, and I'd like to wrap it up with a reflection piece. So the last thing I'm going to do is click the blue and white plus button. And down at the bottom of the screen here on the dashboard, there's a section that says Readymade Activities. The Activating Prior Knowledge section has these different activities. I think these are great for starting a lesson or doing like a mid-workshop teach. But I'm going to go down to questioning and reflection. These are also great for a mid-workshop teach and wrapping up a lesson. You can use the preview magnifying glass to get a look. I love this activity because it has images, visuals, and text to support the learning. And this is kind of like an exit ticket that gives me student data. So I'll press select. And when it says ready-made, it really means ready-made. I don't have to do anything. If I wanted to, I could click edit and change it up here. But how do you feel about the topic? I'm going to leave that there. And then you can see those little visuals I was telling you about. I'm totally getting this, mostly understand, but I have questions, or I'm still kind of confused. The students will answer on their end, and then I can see what their responses are. I'll just press next, get to review, press finish. All right, my lesson's done. So the final step you can see up here, it says saved. If it says saving, just give it a second, it auto saves. You can change the title of this if you'd like just by clicking in the title box and typing. I can put the date today, which is 8/4. Oh, not 2, 4. And then when I'm finished, I'll press finish editing. Now what this does is it brings me directly to the presentation screen. So now's the time I'm going to ask that you can join my class. If you feel more comfortable, stay on the YouTube channel and just watch from the teacher perspective. But if you'd like to get the student experience, go to a new tab, go to hellosmart.com and join my class by putting in 889-330. I do want you to join as a guest today. And I believe Akia or Laura has put that information for you in the chat. So if you'd like to, you can get that same information there. It's also on the screen now. I'll wait just a moment while I wait for you guys to connect. Be sure to leave your YouTube tab open. You can just click the plus button and go to hellosmart.com. We will give it a second just to make sure everyone's got it in.
While we're waiting, Hillary, you want to answer a question or two?
Yeah, have some questions pop up.
So let's see. Here's one. Are the student responsibles visible for all students to see?
In a shout it out, yes, all students can see that, but something like the response that we added at the end, the reflection activity, it's private. And I'll be sure to highlight that as we go through. It's a great question.
And then another great question from Penny.
Yes, Penny, that is a great question. The YouTube feature in Smart Learning Suite prevents commercials, ads, pop-ups, comments, subscribe now things. It's just the video and that's it. It's amazing.
And Akia is just throwing that code in the chat for us one more time. So I believe we can probably get started.
Yeah, we've got 20 people connected. Well, it sounds good.
Now.
Awesome.
All right, so I'm going to press got it. And as you guys can see on the student end, you are on my screen. So whatever I do on this screen, you can see I'll draw you a little smiley face. Thanks for joining. When I change pages, it changed pages for you. And this was my opening lesson that I made, or opening part of my lesson. So what do you notice about these different shapes? We're quietly looking. Typically in class, I'd say, okay, let's take 30 seconds. Nobody make a noise. What do you notice? All right, remember what you were thinking. And we're going to head on to the shout it out. Now I'm going to press start for class. And on the student end, you'll have a white box that pops up. Just type your response in there and press submit. You can see that you'll have up to 3 responses. We'll just take a minute or two. So we've got some different responses already coming in. I love this too. Great responses, guys. If you have finished typing in a response, if you want to just click back over to YouTube really quickly and take a peek at what it looks like from the teacher end, this is what would show on your panel or on your teacher screen. So I like to present this page in Google Meet. So if my students wanted to see the other student responses, but I also want to show you, if you can click back over to YouTube, the anonymous part of this. So I've got these little icons and they're all different. I can click and zoom in. If someone put a response that wasn't a good response or maybe it was inappropriate, I can just quickly drag and put it in the trash and delete it. And then using this gear icon on the left, I can see which students have responded and which students have not yet responded. And then I can also turn off and on the display names. Just so you guys know, when I turn on display names, it's not their whole names. It's just the first 3 letters of their name. So it still does keep it pretty private. But I think for the beginning of the year, I found a lot of power in keeping it anonymous. Students really like that, especially my shy babies who maybe don't always want to raise their hand. They've got some really thought-provoking responses on here. You can see this is a really cool tool here. Ryan, what were you going to say?
Some other ways that I've used Shout It Out working with adult learners is around interview prep and workplace etiquette. Similar to what you did, maybe I'd show a picture or video before this Shout It Out and kind of, hey, what do you see? What do you notice about this that, that could be wrong? Or how would you react to a certain situation? So Shout It Out is a good way to kind of brainstorm for those students.
Yeah, I love this as a brainstorming activity. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on to the next page. It will move you off of here, so get your final responses in. Just 3, 2, 1. All right, moving on. So I noticed a lot of you guys put that you noticed the shapes were divided. Some of them were equal, different. You had fractions. These are all great answers. And just like I showed you previously, on the student perspective, whenever I move a shape, it moves it on your end. So you can see how students can visually get an idea of what's unequal. That I would also take this time and opportunity with my kiddos to be like, okay, what do I mean by unequal, right? It doesn't always just mean divided in half, although those are two equal parts. It can be divided in lots of different pieces as long as the sizes are the same shape, right? It's just an introductory fraction lesson. I can doodle on here. I can circle, underline, highlight. You can use those different things here. Okay, so now's your opportunity to practice. You can play this game. I'm gonna press start. I have the same exact student perspective that you guys have for now. And I like this because my students who maybe work a little bit slower have time, and my students who work really, really fast can play again. So it's got some pacing in there. I'm gonna move these. I wanna show you what it looks like at the end. So let me get these done for you. Remember, if you get it incorrect, it just bounces it back out, gives you another try. Equal. All right, so now my rocket ships blast off, and I can just press reset. Now remember, this specific activity is just for reinforcement. It's not for a grade or anything like that. I'm really just wanting my students to try this out at first. I'll give you guys a few more seconds to practice here before I move on to the next part.
So another way for super sort, so this is really good. So this more prefaces the sorting part, but maybe after this you can level it up with some classification. And as you mentioned earlier, with the flip out as well. So you can kind of leverage multiple games.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to move on to the YouTube video. And I'll press play on my end, but also press play on your end and just see what the student experience is like. It's your own volume on your device. It doesn't open it out into any other links. Like we had the great question earlier, does it have questions or pop-ups? Nope, no ads, nothing like that. It's really great for our kiddos. I'm gonna press pause. Hopefully you guys got a chance to take a look at that.
And I think with the videos as well, it's really good to, it really portrays empathy and curiosity in the classroom with your lessons to put the videos in there for your students.
There's so many ways we can do that, especially with the environment that we're in now, including the SEL components in your class is great.
So definitely to deepen the knowledge.
Okay, so this is my activity. This is the one that I wanted everyone to take a look at. If you can just navigate back to YouTube for a second before we get started on this, I want to show you what this looks like from the teacher end and how I can utilize this. So I'm just going to press student progress. And then down here at the bottom, I have a teacher handout. The teacher handout gives me the ability to model for my students using the same tools that they have. So students have access to the cursor, pen, eraser to input images and text. So they can draw right on here. If I wanted to say, all right, guys, this is what I'm expecting. I want you to do your best and draw on here to divide these shapes into equal parts. And I might go over the directions here instead of how we would typically do it in their notebook. The other neat tool is that if your students are using a touch screen device, so any web-enabled touchscreen device like a Chromebook or a tablet, they can utilize their finger to draw on the screen, which sometimes is a little easier for our more tactile learners to get in with dividing these into equal shapes. So click back over to Smart Learning Suite Online and go ahead and try it out. We'll take just 15 or so seconds so that people can check it out. If you're still in YouTube, you can see I've got all of my students here.
And then also with the...
Oh, sorry, Ryan. There was a quick question in the chat. Sure. One of the participants wanted to know if there was a way to take it off of student pacing because they were able to skip ahead in the lesson.
So I've got it on teacher pacing right now. And the way that you can change it to student pacing is just by clicking your class and swapping over to student.
Okay, I think you answered the question.
All right, perfect. Okay, so what I would like you to do now, we've had a few minutes to practice. If you just want to come back over to the YouTube live stream, I want to show you what it looks like from the teacher perspective. So here's all of my students who've gotten started. I have 29 out of 37 students who've gotten started. So obviously I might be giving verbal reminders like, hey guys, not everyone's gotten started yet. But also I can see the students who have marked this as done. There's a green check mark by their name. If you're one of these students who's working in the handout, you'll see at the top right, it says mark as done. But then I, as the teacher, can click into it and see what each student has done. Can navigate through, right? Oh, very impressive, Angela. So for example, I'm going to call in you, Alina, here. I might say, great job dividing these in half. Can you divide these even further, right? So I can give that student feedback.
Also, what I like about handouts as well, I know Newsella is a big resource, and you can turn the Newsella pages into handouts as well. It's also good for really close reading for those students where they can use those smart tools to underline, circle keywords, take notes in the margins.
Yeah, I taught elementary reading, and one of the ways that we used this was for grammar. So if my students were working on punctuation, we could go in and add punctuation to the sentences. I'm just leaving Alina some more feedback. I can just add in images as feedback also, so the students can see. I can just use this little handle right here to stretch it out. Okay, and as you can see, you can just mark through as students go, and we can check out how they've done. Okay. All right, so the final activity that we have today was the response. So this was, how did you feel about the topic? So I'm going to press start. And you should have the opportunity on page 8 to answer the questions. And I have a live look at how my students are responding here. I could choose to show the live results if I want, or we can keep it on just the percentage. You can use this, this response activity in many ways. This doesn't just have to be one of the ready-made ones. You can put in your own questions in here as well.
And with doing that, you can kind of start your lesson with the response as well. Maybe a 2-question quiz, or maybe you can use it as a bell ringer, or maybe a chapter quiz at the end of your lesson as well. So multiple.
I like this too. Sometimes if I introduced a really complicated topic the day before, I can say like, okay, like how did we feel about yesterday? How much do you remember? And we need to, I can adjust my learning and my teaching in live time.
Great formative assessment.
If you want to click over just so you can get a look at the teacher end, click back into YouTube for a second. I want to highlight a couple of things here. So if this were a multiple choice, I only have one question in this, but if it had multiple questions, I could navigate here through the arrows, but I only have one. And I can end the activity and it's going to stop the whole activity. And I'm going to do that just for the sake of time. I'm sorry if you didn't get a chance to finished. I'm just going to press end and review because I want to show you what this looks like here. So I can show, let me end it one more time. End and review. There we go. I'm having some technical difficulties. All right, so you can end the review here, and then as it finishes, it will give you an option to export the results here. I'm running into a little hiccup. So we've got a chance to take a look at all of the different activities in the Smart Learning Suite. These are a really great way to get started. I do want to show you one more part before I hand it off to Ryan for our closing. So if you want to go ahead and click out of my class by using the top here, and there is an exit button. It says leave class. So go ahead and leave my class and head back over to the YouTube page. I'm going to show you where to find this lesson after it's created. I'm going to kick everybody out. All right, click back over to YouTube for me. I'll give you just a couple more seconds before I move on to the next part. So what I did is I went from edit the lesson. I was on this blue and white screen. I clicked finish editing, and it took me right into the presentation mode. However, I know that this is not always the way that we want to use the lesson. Sometimes you just want to make it ahead of time and then present it later. So instead, from the edit screen, as long as it says saving, it'll change to saved, or you can click finish editing. You'll just exit out of it. So let it finish loading and then exit. It's saved in your Google Drive. So there's two ways to find it. One, this drive is really organized. I don't use this one very often, so you can see there's not too much in here. And my Smart Learning Suite Online file is just right here. I know it's a Smart Learning Suite file because of this icon, the blue and purple and green icon. It also says .sls. But I love to use the search feature in Google Drive. I can, one, search the title because I know it's equal parts. I could just press enter and pull it up. But the other trick I like is to search .sls and press enter. And what that does is it brings up all my Smart Learning Suite files that I've used. And I like to click by last modified because that gives me the most recent one by date. So I modified this today at 10:49 a.m. And then you'll just click, and then you can use the button here to open with Smart Learning Suite. I'll show you that one more time. I searched SLS in Google Drive or the title, double click, open with Smart Learning Suite. So that's how we find the lesson, and I'm going to turn things back over to Ryan.
Thank you very much, Hillary. So with the lesson that Hillary created, in any activities or SLSO lessons that you create, you have multiple delivery options. So similar to the student experience that you did earlier with Hillary, you can conduct your lesson delivery over Google Meet. You can also do it at your Smart Panel and then also in Google Classroom. So we'll put those steps in this for you, and you'll have this resource for you. We'll go a little bit more in depth in future trainings as well. Also, some resources that we'll share with you, and Laura and Akia are going to drop them in the chat for you, smart.palmbeachschools.org. If you'd like to kind of enhance your knowledge of Smart Learning Suite online, please check out smart.palmbeachschools.org. And then also we have a teacher resource, a lot of how-to documents on how to make the SMART activities, some end-to-end total participation techniques as well, and also video tutorials. Please check out Smart Exchange. This is kind of a library or a repository of pre-created lessons, so you can use these activities with your students during virtual learning. And also, next steps, please complete the implementation portion of this ELM course. And then also, please join us on Thursday for a Smartifier lesson with the Smart Learning Suite on Thursday. So we'll be going a little bit more in depth and giving you a little bit more knowledge about how to deliver your lesson and using more of the tools in a more in-depth way. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Hillary. That was excellent. So many things that you can do with students to keep them engaged while remote learning. I'm going to drop you guys down for just a second, and then I'll bring you back at the very end, okay?
All right. Thanks, Rebecca.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're here to fill a bucket, then you're going to need to make sure that you are registered in ELM and our e-learning management system. If you'll notice, we do offer this course pre-recorded as well as today's live session, and we will be offering it again during the preschool week, also live. Please make sure when you are looking at the course that you are enrolled in the one that says live, and it should have today's date, 8/6, on that as well. Registration for this course is open until next Monday. However, the course will remain open so the presenters and the course teachers can continue to grade this course. If you are currently enrolled in one of the pre-recorded sessions, there is an alternate enrollment option in order to get into the online course. So you might have to look into a couple of those things in ELM. And then there is the follow-up. So within ELM, within the course, Module 2 is where you're going to find the instructions for the follow-up for this activity. So please make sure you read through that carefully. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to anyone on the EdTech training team. We're here to help you. And speaking of help, we are offering EdTech office hours, the same as we did last year. Our first one coming up is next Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Stop by, and with your questions, we're here to help. If your questions are about this course or one of the other courses that we're offering, or just any technology implementation that you may need help with, we're here to help. This Thursday, we won't be in the office hours because we will be offering 3 more live streams. As Ryan mentioned, we will have an advanced Smart Learning Suite online session. We also have Google Classroom 101, and we also have the 4C. So please be sure to join us then. We have one more session today at 1:30, and that's an overview of Blender and all of the textbook updates. So we hope you'll join us again back at 1:30. And there we go. Once again, all of our information is on our EdTech support site. On that homepage is the calendar where you can get the link to our office hours, as well as the links to our live streams and all of the resources that we post following our live streams at edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org. This video will be available almost immediately on YouTube, and the resources will be available later this week. Coming soon, we have our EdTech PBC Tuesday Twitter chats starting August the 11th at 3:30. We hope you will join us. Please follow us at #EdTechPBCChat. And on behalf of the entire training team, as well as everyone that is on our Ed Technology team, we thank you so much. We're here to support you during this time. And there's our contact information. If you have specific questions, feel free to reach out to us. And let me bring up Ryan and Hillary. I just want to thank you all so much for being with us here today. If there's any questions, we will definitely be sending them your way.
Thanks, Rebecca. As always, great to be here.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you guys back at 1:30.